you have. A story unfolds.
Did you know that 85% of all human beings have a monkey gene? The monkey gene is called the rhesus factor, or Rh factor, because it can be traced to the rhesus monkey. Chances are your blood type tests Rh positive, which means you've got the monkey gene. If by chance your blood type tests negative for the monkey gene, you are in a small minority of only 15% of the world's population. So what happens when an Rh negative woman gets pregnant with an Rh positive partner? Her body rejects, attacks, and kills the fetus, unless of course there's medical intervention. What is the cause of this strange breeding incompatibility within the human species? Are Rh negative people alien in some way?
These guys who are manipulating my mind and programming me for mind control purposes claimed, and these criminals in control of our country as well, claim to be gods, demons, and aliens in order that I feel totally helpless, in order that I felt like they were beyond my realm to affect.
And we had cataloged 57 different species. You have individuals that look very much like you and myself that could walk among us and you wouldn't even notice the difference.
In 2012, not only did Britain host the Olympic Games, but the Queen also celebrated her Diamond Jubilee. The opening ceremony to the Olympic Games was a massive occult ritual with much symbolism used throughout, and the stadium that was built to host the event was specifically created to enhance the ritual's effects. The opening ceremony was carefully planned out so that the ceremony would increase the energies on the entire planet. With the involvement and attention of a majority of the world, the energies become increased along the ley lines of the Earth, and this energy can then be controlled and manipulated. There is much information about this ritual and its effects which can be found online for further investigation into this subject. It was also no coincidence that James Bond, 007, escorts Queen Elizabeth from Buckingham Palace in a sequence that was a part of the opening ceremony called The Arrival. In this scene, James Bond is shown arriving at the palace and picking up Queen Elizabeth, where they then enter a helicopter and fly through London. When they arrive at the Olympic Stadium, they parachute out of the helicopter, which exhilarated audiences around the world. Not only was the scene with James Bond used as a promotional stunt for the latest Bond movie, but it also served a much deeper, hidden meaning with occult inspiration. The creator of the fictional character James Bond, Ian Fleming, created the character based off the actual founder of British intelligence, John Dee. Not only is Dee accredited for founding British intelligence, but he was also a highly esteemed alchemist, occultist, mathematician, astrologer, author, sorcerer, and mystic. He is best known as being the personal advisor to Queen Elizabeth I, and he signed all of his documents and correspondences with the Queen with the sigil of 007. Ian Fleming incorporated the 007 with the James Bond character, which is also why it was John Dee, aka James Bond, who escorted Queen Elizabeth II to the 2012 Olympic Games. The formations of some of the opening ceremony and much of the symbolism can be linked to John Dee's glyph, known as the Monad, in which Dee wrote a book about it, called the Monad Hieroglyph. Dee rose to power in very curious circumstances, as he was initially charged by Queen Mary for attempting to end her life using sorcery. When Queen Mary mysteriously died, Queen Elizabeth I took the throne, and Dee received a high position in the court as the Queen's personal advisor, magician, and intelligence leader. John Dee is also known for bringing the Rosicrucian Order to England, as he was the head of the Rosicrucian Order in Europe at the time. The Rosicrucian Order has its roots through the mystery schools of Egypt and is thought to have been established around 1500 BC. The successor of John Dee in regards to the occult and the Rosicrucian Order was none other than Sir Francis Bacon. Bacon is also accredited for the foundations of the modern English language and translating the King James Version of the Bible. It is thought that when he translated this version, he also altered it, incorporating Masonic and Rosicrucian symbolism and doctrine. John Dee had a strong influence on many contemporaries and on the British Empire.
Not only was Dee a scholar of the classics and the magical past, but he was an intimate friend with some of the great movers and shakers of his own time, particularly Sir Philip Sidney and the entire coterie of poets and artists who had gathered themselves around Elizabeth Astrea to celebrate her reign and to make of her the paradigmatic sovereign of Europe that Dee believed led the way toward the establishing of a universal alchemical monarchy. It was essentially a poetic enterprise, as alchemy always is. Merlin, in the Arthurian legends, has come down to us basically disguised as John Dee. The image we have of Merlin is Dee's image. So Dee possessed an enormous power over the imagination of his contemporaries. They were in awe of his learning.
Il demone è pure dell'esorcista. L'esorcismo è lui che ha paura e non abbiamo paura noi. E sono contento di dare in botta al demone. Quando mi dice il demone che chi sei, io domando Satana. Ah, ora mi sei capitato, adesso ti ho dato un sacco di botte. Dunque, e quindi è lui che grida. Perché quando grida la persona, ci sono dei gridi qui delle suore che si sentono a volte fino in fondo, fino alla strada si sentono. Dunque nel giardino. Ma non è certamente la persona che grida, ma è il demonio che sente queste botte. Diciamo così.
Martina and her parents have been coming to see Padre Alfredo regularly for the past 6 months. The family has turned to the exorcist in an attempt to solve problems which have troubled their daughter since she was 8 years old. Although Martina comes to the sessions willingly, as soon as she enters Padre Alfredo's bunker, she suffers a violent reaction. For her own safety, she has to be restrained before the exorcism can begin.
Oh, l'inferno, vai!
Prende l'acqua, padre, prende l'acqua, là, prende l'acqua. Prende l'acqua.
Sì, ci ho pensato, ma
L'acqua, là.
non ci ho pensato.
Là.
Sta buona? Sta buona, forse? Ci avevo pensato.
The exorcism consists of a ritual first formulated in 1614 and updated by the Vatican 2 years ago.
Nel nome del Padre, del Figlio e dello Spirito Santo. Signore Gesù Cristo, Dio di Verbo eterno Padre, Dio universo, il tuo nome è di Cristo, è di Cristo, è di Cristo. Ecco l'acqua del il esorcismo viene una forza particolare. Dunque ho notato questo, a volte il demonio, siccome l'esorcismo sono come potesse uno bastonate, picchia il demonio, no? E mette l'acqua santa nella mano, mi brucia, mi sono accorto di questo. Il demonio è furbo e cerca di parlare per riposarsi. Avete visto mai i pugili? quando si danno i pugni, a un certo punto si abbracciano, si riposano, respirano un attimo. Il demonio fa la stessa tattica, dunque parla e io invece non bisogna dargli retta, continuare l'esorcismo, in modo che non c'è tregua, sono botte. Ave Maria, piena di grazia, il Signore è con te. Tu sei benedetta fra le donne. Maligno. Ave Maria, piena di grazia, il Signore è con te. Tu sei benedetta fra le donne. Benedetta Santa Maria, ma libera. Ma Maria, no, maligno, è Cristo più forte. Cacciale via, di la verità. Di la verità a questa signora. Esiste o non esisti tu? Il demonio esiste o non esiste?
Esiste il demonio!
Come fai a dimostrarlo? Come fai a dimostrare che esiste?
Tutto!
Ma questo...
Io esisto! E chi non ci crede bene?
Ma questo...
The Necronomicon is a book of incantations to summon demons and spirits, and is highly popular in occult circles found throughout the ages. It is easily obtainable from several bookstores, and has been portrayed in many movies such as The Evil Dead, The Ninth Gate, The Necronomicon, and several others. The book was originally written in 738 AD in Damascus by Abdul al-Hazred, and was later translated by John Dee, and later popularized by H.P. Lovecraft. Most of the entities referred to in the Necronomicon are Sumerian gods, which we discussed earlier in this documentary, such as Marduk, Tiamat, and Kingu. However, there is also several similarities to Kabbalistic, Biblical, Babylonian, and Islamic concepts and symbolism. The book states that the teachings of the Necronomicon have been long forgotten by man, and only those who worship demons or the ancient ones still retain this knowledge. Also similar to ancient Sumerian beliefs, the book describes the Anunnaki, which can be described as meaning those of royal blood, or those who from heaven to earth came. The Anunnaki have been popularized in modern times by authors such as Zecharia Sitchin and Eric von Daniken, and has influenced the ancient astronauts theory, which has been recently promoted through the media. This theory depicts these ancient astronauts as being gods, interbreeding with humans to create the demigods, and being responsible for engineering the human race, creating mankind in their own image. In Sumerian beliefs, it names Enki as the one who genetically engineered mankind, and is similar to the Greek god Poseidon. The symbol of Enki and Poseidon is two entwined serpents, which represents the double helix of DNA and is used by today's medical profession. The Necronomicon describes a spiritual battle in where the dark gods, called the Ancient Ones or Old Ones, are cast out from the heavens to the darkest part of the universe, called the Agigi. These dark spirits or demons are waiting in the Agigi for a celestial event to occur, in which their priest, Cthulhu, and their leader, Azagthoth, will lead them out, in where Cthulhu will establish a kingdom on earth to bring a war to the ones in the heavens, called the Elder Gods. This story is paralleled in the Bible in Revelations 9:1, where Apollo ascends from the abyss onto earth bringing swarms of locusts. There are 9 gates in the Necronomicon, and each gate is guarded and ruled by a different entity. Of these 9 gates, there are 7 inner gates, referred to as the 7 gates or the 7 seals, and there is 2 outer world gates. These gates are created during rituals and represent different parallels or dimensions in our universe. The Kabbalah also describes similar parallels or universes and referred to them as Sephiroths. These Sephiroths have also been associated with the human chakra points, and the Necronomicon's Ladder of Light, with its 7 gates or steps, associates the same planets with each step as the Kabbalistic ladder. A ladder with 7 steps can also be found in older Hindu and Persian traditions, and the Masonic Ladder of Kadosh and Jacob's Ladder from the Bible are also similar stories of gateways or steps. Just as Albert Einstein described universe dimensions as being in spheres, so does the Necronomicon, and the spirits that reside within these spheres exist within extra dimensions, which exist in every point in space. These entities coincide in parallel universes, and with the right offerings or sacrifice can be summoned or brought into other dimensions and parallels. Various gestures are used to control the spirits, referred to as the signs of power, and symbolizes mankind's power over the spirits. These hand signs are done with the left hand, which is where the term left-hand path is derived from, and is often associated with evil or negative characters. A common sign we have seen world leaders using is the sign of Vur, which is used to ask something of the Old Ones, and is one of the 4 satanic signs. It is used when attempting to use the influence of the Old Ones to achieve a specific goal or purpose. The sign of Kish is also a commonly seen hand gesture, and is used to break down a barrier and open portals to the outside. The sign of Koth, commonly seen being used by politicians and other world leaders, is used to close the portals opened by the sign of Kish. The sign of the Elders is a protective gesture used for protection from the Watchers against threatening spirits. Once a specific spirit has been summoned, it is often uncontrollable and very unpredictable, and many people who attempt to use the Necronomicon, when not fully aware of its methods and potential, end up bringing forth dark forces into their lives, in which they cannot reverse. Several races are also mentioned in the Necronomicon, such as the Thule, which influenced the Thule Society, the Elders and the Old Ones, the Anunnaki, the Watchers, and the Migo. The Elders are the oldest of the races, and are gods that reside in the heavens. They are ruled by Anu, Enki, and Enlil, and known as the Great Three Watchers. They have made a pact with humans so that they can be summoned by the use of rituals and magic, and created the spirits whose duty is to protect humans, called the Watchers. The Old Ones, or Ancients, are demons to the Christians, and are referred to as the Jinn to the Muslims. Jinn is also where the term genies originates from. Depending on the intentions of the magician, certain gods or demons can be summoned for various reasons, and some of these spirits come in the form of a dark presence or energy, while others are meant for positive purposes. Some of the gods, such as Cthulhu, referred by Aleister Crowley as the Beast 666, are able to possess the magician and can lead to unpredictable results. With a basic understanding of energies, one can understand the reasons in which someone would want to summon spirits and can alter certain people, events, or achieve specific goals or intentions. There are many stories of people whom have dabbled with black magic and have had severe consequences as a direct result, and is thought to be the explanation behind demonic possessions, and in many instances ends up as insanity or even death or suicide. Many people do not believe that summoning spirits and demons actually works, but the truth of the matter is that the power lies within the believer, or the eye of the beholder, and is the reason why people achieve altered states of consciousness during meditation and prayers. Many cultures use specific potions or mind-altering drugs, such as ayahuasca, to achieve higher levels of consciousness, and to help tap into other dimensions and planes of existence, and an early recipe for LSD can also be found in older versions of the Necronomicon. The formula is called Space Mead, and calls for the mixing of morning glory seeds soaked in wood alcohol. This formula is intended to increase the effectiveness of opening the gates and summoning the spirits. Many secret societies have incorporated aspects of these rituals into their own, and people like Aleister Crowley have developed powerful techniques and rituals to achieve greater outcomes. Just as we can find with the systems of nature, there is always a battle happening between positive and negative energies, and it is for this reason that the magician understands the capabilities of rituals and the practice of magic, alchemy, psychology, and nearly all aspects of life. It is also for this reason that many world leaders become involved in secret societies and the occult, and use this magic to shape and influence the world in which we live. There is a cure, however, and it lies within the hearts and minds of all people on Earth, and through a better understanding and awareness, an age of great change can become a reality for us all. It's time to take a deep look within ourselves and discover who we really are, and realize just how much potential we have within us.
Facing our true inner self is virtually unknown in our world today. This is why no matter how many civilizations rise and fall, it is our collective consciousness that creates our governing apparatus, not individual people. And after countless attempts, you would imagine that people would realize that a physical retaliation may not be the solution. Yet here we are, thousands of years later, with technology that can clone DNA, vehicles that can break the sound barrier and probe the depths of space, and science that can overcome almost any sickness. Yet we still fail to take notice to the importance of thoughts and consciousness. This is the very definition of insanity. And every single one of us is responsible for this psychic epidemic, because we're killing the messenger and paying no attention to the message.
The human spirit, body, and mind are all important factors we must maintain in order to lead healthy and productive lives. Human life can be related to the life of a tree or a plant, in which once a human or a plant stops growing, it then dies, and becomes broken down to replenish the earth in new ways. The important thing to remember in this scenario is that once we stop growing, we are then waiting to die, and it is quite unfortunate that many people are living a life in which they have allowed themselves to stop growing in spirit, body, and mind due to the world of bondage that has been bestowed upon us. Many people have given up, or believe there is nothing that can be done to change the world, and in turn many people feel that they are insignificant or remain living in an environment based from fear of the establishment. Oftentimes, when people learn the truth of life that has been hidden from them, they come to the conclusion that the system of control in which we live is an indestructible entity, and do not wish to face their demons, or become stressed and overcome with a flood of negative emotions, and continue to allow the world to progress in a downward spiral due to their emotions based from these fears. This vicious cycle has been continuing for centuries, and will continue for future generations unless something is done to stop it. The key to this great change lies within the spirit, body, and mind of every single human being on the planet, and throughout history, all it ever took to change the course of the world was a single person's vision or actions. If this could be achieved on a greater level and include a majority of the population, the world could be transformed into a better place, and our children and future generations could live in harmony. It is hard to believe that humanity has not entered into this age yet, and the reason we have yet to achieve this monumental leap in evolution is simply because we are all a product of our environment. We live in a world in where profit is more important than life, and from the time we are born, we are expected to become a part of this society. It is hard to get employment in a field we enjoy and increase the potential of our lives at our jobs. Most jobs are simply a part of the corporate machine, and things like art, music, and other subjects geared to developing our potential are slowly disappearing from school curriculums and being replaced with industry-related studies. Laws, finances, and taxes are often not taught to children and must be taken in college and university to have a better understanding, and this in turn leads to people who are unaware of how the system works, keeping them in the dark so that they can assume their role in society. Government systems limit our potential for growth and consciousness by creating a negative world and keeping us in a state of fear and unknowing to the true fundamental realities of life. Many people become depressed because of this system, and others become addicted to drugs to cope, which destroys parts of the brain, leading to depression, sickness, inhibition, suicide, and death. The government also offers these addicts drugs through meth clinics, so that these people whom have become addicted remain on various drugs and become trapped in a cycle designed to limit their potential as human beings. When people become sick, the government and medical system prescribes drugs rather than promote natural methods of curing, because if someone gets better, there is no profit to be made. Pharmaceutical companies cannot stay in business by curing people, so natural methods of healing are neglected by the establishment. We live in a world where we are born to spend money and contribute to the system, and when we die, companies profit huge amounts of money from the families of those who have died. Our bodies are sealed and contained within a box or an urn, so that our physical materials cannot become a part of the living earth in which we are a part of. This stops the natural cycle carried out by all other life forms on planet Earth. Many people do not believe that they are connected with the earth or have an impact on their environment, but the truth of the matter is that all living things on this planet are connected, and through this awareness we are able to change the world in which we live. Through this knowledge, we can do what is necessary to make for a better world for future generations.
Mrs. Ritalik created two distinct environments for her test plants. Water levels were kept the same in both. Temperature and lighting were identical. Only one element was different. Semi-classical music was played into one, hard rock into the other. In the chamber with soft music, the plants leaned toward the speaker, seeming to draw strength from the melodious sounds. In the chamber with rock music, the plants shrank away and eventually died. Time-lapse photography represents the reactions of the plants over several days. The results are unmistakable. Test conditions could only mean that it was the quality of the music, not the volume, that determined the reaction of the plants.
The plants, it seems to me, are trying to tell us something.
If plants hear, how do they hear? Certainly there's nothing in the plant world like the human ear and mind, but perhaps there's something else. A way of hearing that doesn't involve receiving and interpreting sound waves. What we call a sound wave is merely one form of energy, but scientists know that energy takes many forms. Cleve Baxter has spent more than 25 years researching the behavior of plants.
Right now we're going to use a pair of electrodes that are regularly used on people, but now are mounted between this C-clamp.
Baxter is a polygraph expert and has conducted lie detector tests for the Army and the CIA. The polygraph is essential to his work with plants.
This is a conventional piece of polygraph equipment of which we're using only 1/3, the galvanic skin response section. Now I'm going to activate the chart drive on the equipment and turn up the sensitivity and balance in the plant between these electrodes. Now, the tracing we're getting now represents the plant.
He calibrates the machine, this time in hope of achieving a response from the plant to the cutting of Kay's hand with a scalpel.
You got a hand to spare? Right here? All right. Now, what I'm going to do is just to cut a little bit here. When you feel this, the thing that was going fairly calm is now going pretty wild. I think the plant is tuned into your apprehension pretty nicely. Now let's see if it's tuned into this. Now I'm going to put some iodine in there.
This time, the results were positive. The plant has reacted in some way. Baxter can only conclude that it is a reaction to the pain felt by another living thing.
I mean, this is pretty powerful stuff that we're going over. I mean, there's no anthropologist or biologist on the planet who can explain this one. How the sunflower evolved a bunch of spirals in it. It's seed pod design, and how those spirals exactly lead to a golden ratio Fibonacci series numbers. Unbelievable. Okay, this is it. There's no question. I mean, we've all been lied to all through our undergraduate college degrees and our elementary schools and on our TVs just by them not discussing all this. I mean, you know how many examples I have here? There's so many, and they're all this powerful. Okay? And all this was hidden from us while we were in our schools learning about, what were we learning about? Plate tectonics theory. I mean, it's pretty sad case. And when it's so obviously everywhere in nature, it has to be a conspiracy in the satanic New World Order Illuminati system we live in. I guess they don't want you to know this stuff, because you might realize that this reality you live in is charged with Yahweh. The architect's fingerprint is absolutely everywhere, and it's in you. You are a piece of that fingerprint.
We think of a piece of steel as being solid, and according to our definition, it is a solid. But the popular concept of what makes a solid is certainly a false one. This piece of steel, and any so-called solid substance on this earth, is almost entirely empty space. If we could eliminate the empty space in this piece of steel, all that would remain would be a tiny bit of matter, so small as to be invisible even with a high-power microscope. This concept of almost unlimited empty space within matter is comparatively new, but it is the very cornerstone of our knowledge in this atomic age. Atoms are not solid. Instead, they are tiny solar systems composed of infinitely small particles revolving at tremendous speeds and bound together by enormous forces. And like our solar system, atoms are almost entirely empty space. For the moment, let's forget the forces within the atom. Thinking only of the particles and the empty space around them, science knows no reason why I couldn't take this so-called solid steel bottle and just throw it right on through that wall. Except this, we've tried it and it hasn't worked. If I were to attempt to run through that wall right now, all I'd get for my trouble would be a good-sized lump on the head. But that which would prevent my body passing through the wall would not be a collision of particles, but rather a collision of forces. The same forces that make an atom bomb. And if it were not for these forces, my body could go freely back and forth through that wall, just as though it were not there. It is within the realm of scientific possibility that there could be two worlds coexistent, occupying the same part of space at the same moment of time, each world just as real as the other, with its mountains, valleys, rivers, trees, and people. And that one world could pass freely through the other world, neither world being conscious of the existence of the other world, if you grant just one thing. Atomic forces within the material substance of these two worlds that are not mutually interactive. What do we mean by this? Let's see. Here are two pieces of steel. Their appearance is quite similar, but a magnet will reveal a basic internal difference between the two pieces. This one, of course, is picked up, but this one is unaffected. This piece of steel is non-magnetic, stainless steel. Of course, we all know that other metals, such as brass or aluminum, are not affected by the magnet. But a ring made of aluminum is something else. It can be suspended in air by the electromagnetic force of what is actually a transformer. The ring being in effect a one-turn shorted secondary. A smaller ring will react even more violently. Here is another ring. This one made of a material we say is non-conductive. And it is completely unaffected. Here is another example. Several thousand watts of power were involved in that spark. If we replace the spark gap with a copper coil, the same power now flows through the coil. It's invisible, has no effect on many substances, but it can generate a lot of heat. Wood, paper, things that we think of as being quite inflammable are not affected at all. However, a piece of steel wool bursts into flame instantly. Did you ever fry an egg on a cold stove? It's no trick at all if you have the right equipment. This is a cold hot plate. And because it's cold, you can make it out of wood, if you like. Just be sure that there's a coil of wire inside and that you connect that coil to a high voltage alternating current source. The rest is easy. As long as we're being different, we'll use motor oil instead of Crisco. The egg fries very quickly, but the stove remains perfectly cold. In fact, if you wish to keep it handy, you can fry your egg on the morning newspaper. With a gadget like this, you can get up in the morning, sit on the stove, read the morning newspaper, and fry the eggs in your lap. Another example of the fact that physical forces can be quite selective in their effect. All of the examples which we have cited thus far have been in the physical realm, and of course have been limited by that fact. We can, however, cite examples that transcend the purely physical and clearly demonstrate the reality of these two worlds.